Today's very first video is on Java syntax. First, we'll understand what is syntax. Syntax is the way how we are writing the code so that our compiler will understand. Okay, this is very important because every language will be having their own way of writing the code. If it is C language, C syntax is somewhat different. If it is C++, it is similar to C, but it is having a different way of the libraries. But if you consider Java, it is completely different syntax. If you compare with C sharp, it is having its own way of writing the code. This is what we call as syntax. Now what we are going to learn is Java syntax. If we write the Java program, and our compiler should able to understand our source code. Why? Because the compiler is the one which convert your source code into the byte code. If you are writing any code which compiler not able to understand, then it is going to be error. Those error is called compiler errors. So you have to write the Java program in such a way that there is no compilation error, and the compiler should convert into bytecode. This bytecode is finally converted into a binary format where CPU can execute your code. So in short, Java, Java syntax is how Java code must be written so that compiler can understand your code. Now let's write one piece of the code. Let's say I have a public class and class name is, let's say, my class, and I'm going to start with brackets, and I have public static void and main, and in the argument I'm going to write a string of variable s square bracket, and I'm going to start the program. In that program I'm going to write, let's say, system dot out dot println, and I'm going to write something. This is my DSA code. Okay, now I'm going to close the brackets, and again one more time I'm closing the brackets. Now let's see one by one the piece of the code. So what each part of the code represent. Very first thing, let's say the first is the public. Can you understand the meaning of public? P is small. Every code whatever you are writing in .java file is case sensitive. So this should be small. Public means it is a access modifier. Everyone can access this class because this public keyword I am applying against the class that represent this class is accessible everywhere. Now, class is a keyword that represent whatever I am going to write is a class. For example, let's say this is my method because it is opening and closing parentheses. Now, if it is curly brackets, it is representation of the class. Now, what is the name of the class? Class is also a keyword. This is my name of the class. This name can be any name, but as a best practice, you should follow some naming convention. For example, very first character of your class name should be in caps, and the next word should be in caps that represent camel case. This is called camel case. The first character will be caps, and every word first character will be in capital letters. This is called camel case. This is the best naming notations which we follow while writing the Java code, and the name of the class should be enough so that any developer can understand. For example, today you are writing the class, but tomorrow if any other person is going to read this piece of the code, they should be able to understand what is the purpose of this class and what the functionality it has. So make long enough that represent a operations it is going to perform within this class. Now, pay attention on the second line, which is again a public. Now, this public, is it different from this public? Yes, because this keyword public applies on the class. This public keyword applies on the method. That means this method is accessible on every objects. Now, static. We'll see in details what does this mean static later at the required knowledge. If you get enough knowledge on the syntax, then we'll explain what does this mean by static. Void. Every method has a return type. Void means it does not return anything. That's the reason we use the keyword as void. Now, main is the method name. Now, this main has a fixed standard method name. What is that? M small main. That means the compiler knows where is the entry point of the executions. So wherever you are writing main, this is the entry point of the executions. So we cannot change the method name main. Otherwise, compiler will not be able to understand what is the first execution line of the program. That's the reason always we follow the standard provided by the Java compiler for entry point of the executions. What is that entry point? It is main. Now, every method name followed by a parenthesis that represent the parameters. Not necessary every method will be having the parameters. I can have a method without any parameters. So simply open the parenthesis and close the parenthesis. I don't have any parameter that accepted by the method. That's the reason the method can have the parameter, method cannot be having the parameters. But in this case, this is the standard designed by the Java compiler. So we will be having one default parameters. What is that kind of the parameters? This is of the type string. So it takes a string as a parameter, and the name of the parameter can be anything. This is just a variable name. It can be A, B, C, or param. You can say P. And what kind of the parameter it is? An array. That's the reason I'm specifying as square bracket. Now pay attention on this parenthesis. It has to be closed. Yes, it is closing. This square bracket is on parameter, so you have to close early. Now, this curly brackets and this curly bracket has a different meaning. This curly bracket represent the opening of the class where we are closing this parenthesis. Every open bracket should be closed properly. So this is the open bracket, curly bracket on the class, opening bracket. Yes, we are closing here. In the same way, I have the method which is again opened by curly brackets, and I'm going to close the same method parenthesis. Every bracket should be open and the respective closing bracket also. Now pay attention on very first statement. This is the actual statement. Some people they call as command, some people call as instruction for the CPU, some people call as statement. All are very much similar. This is what the operation I'm going to perform in this method. What is that? System dot out dot println, and in the quotation I'm printing some text as DSC. Now say on semicolons. Now we'll see one by one what each syntax represent. First pay attention on this statement because this program has only one statement. What is that? System.out.println. Every statement should end with semicolon. So whatever the commands lines you are writing, it should ends with semicolon. If you miss the semicolon, then it is going to be a compiler errors. Now, second thing, this curly bracket and this parenthesis has a different meaning. Parenthesis applies on method call or method declarations, but curly brackets applies on opening the class, opening the method. I hope this is clear. Now, let's see on the statement. S is capital, that represent it is a class. So Java is having the case sensitive. When I say case sensitive, you cannot write this as small s. If you write this as small s, it is going to be compilation errors. Every class name start with the caps. So this is my class. Within this class I have some variables. Okay, some people call as attribute. And what is that? If it is directly being assessed, it can be a static. Okay, now this is my again one attribute within this class, and within that attribute, based what it returns, I'm going to call a method. Why it is called method? Because it is specified as parenthesis. This is calling the method. But what is this is? It is declaration of method. When I say declaration, I'm creating a method. When I say I'm calling the method, that means somebody has already created the methods and I'm going to trigger that method. This is called calling the method or triggering the methods. And I specified as parenthesis, and this is the parameter. Can you see here? This is the parameter declaration. But since I am going to call this method, I am passing the parameters. What is the kind of the parameter? It is in the form of double quotes. This double quote represents a string data type. DSA. A is a string. I am passing while triggering this print ln functions. Now, I hope this first statement is clear. And every syntax is case sensitive. That means we cannot write this as capital main. No, this is a class, but here it is small main. This represent the methods, and this piece of the code is called block. When I say block, it is multiple statement that is within this curly brackets. This is the piece of the block, and what we're going to perform is printing some output. What is that some output? A text having the string on console. Console is the output window, which is a black window. You'll get the output as DSA once you are able to successfully compile and execute the programs. I hope we are clear with syntax. Syntax means the way you're writing the programs so that your compiler should able to compile the code into bytecode and able to execute the programs. It has two important things. One is the class, second is the method. Method always start with small case, class start with capital case. And we use some brackets. What all those brackets? Curly brackets for opening the class, curly brackets for opening the method, and parentheses represent the parameters or calling the method with parameters. And the most important thing, semicolon. Every line should end with semicolon. That is the end of the statement. Statement can be a command or instructions. So with this one, we'll proceed for an exercise, a quick exercise to print some text.